Hey everybody, this is the slightest review, and I figured since it is Pride Month that I would do a list of who I feel are the best representation of the LGBT community in TV shows that I have personally watched. Now, I'm only going to do from TV shows that I watched, and only those characters. I have decided not to add like characters I'm not really too familiar with, like say Mr. Terrific from the Arrowverse, only because I stopped watching Arrow by the time he got on there. Which I'm actually surprised they turned him gay, because like he's straight in the comic books. But I guess they want to have more diversity and stuff on the show. Originally, I did add Paige in my other video as good representation from Pretty Little Liars. I kind of forgave her for trying to drown Emily, trying to kill her, because I just saw her as like a troubled soul who couldn't be who she wanted to be, and she sees other people being who they want to be. So I saw that as being like traumatic. But then I stopped and I thought about it just tonight about how when Allie came back, she joined Moa's little like Allie kind of hate group, and they were going to like do some really bad stuff to her. But then I think she joined it, but then later on she got out of it, something like that. But it's kind of like the fact that she joined it, it was kind of like. Next is Dr. Hugh from Star Trek Discovery. I do not know his last name. He had a minor role in season 1 where he was just the lover of Stamets. After that, he had his neck snapped and died. And then in season 2, he came back through some kind of like weird fungus space stuff. And then when he came back, he was completely angry. He was angry because, well, it wasn't really so much his, I don't even think that was his real body that came back. It was just like a cloned body from memories or something. Look, Star Trek Discovery is weird, all right? CBS Star Trek is weird. But when he came back, he was angry and stuff because it was kind of like, he died, like how do you get over that, And more importantly, he was pissed at the person who killed him who was still on that ship. So they fought and everything. He later found out to forgive him. After that, they kind of wrote him back to his nice guy persona, because I guess fans didn't really like that. And plus they didn't want to make him too much of a stereotype, you know what I'm saying? Because Stamets is all, his lover is also gay, and Stamets is like a jerk, which is why Stamets is not on his list. But yeah. But in season 3 of Discovery, it's probably like his best overall. They actually gave him more to do, more character development a little bit. Well, actually not so much character development. They just included him more in the show, let's say that. And so, because this show revolves around one person and one person only. But so it's just like, he's this highly intelligent doctor. He cares about everybody because of the whole Hippocratic Oath thing. He goes out his way to try to save anyone and everyone. And it's just like, he's just this all around nice person. And the only reason why I'm not adding his lover on there is because his lover in season 1 and season 2 is just really mean and rude and snarky. Even in season 3, he's getting a little bit better and nicer, but he's still snarky. Like, I have noticed one thing about Stamets is that, like, they only have him be nice to people, the LGBT community, either the characters or like the people starring in it. So, but pretty much everybody else, he just has a little snarky ways. But he is starting to be nice to other people, but he's still Stamets, you know what I'm saying? But it was nice to him to adopt Adira and consider her like his child and stuff like that. Another person I've always liked was Renee Montoya. From just like, DC Comics, Batman animated series, other stuff that she's been in. In Batman animated series, she wasn't allowed to be a lesbian. So, they couldn't do that. But in the comic books, they turned her into one. And then she's been shown in other media. She was in Gotham for a short period of time in the first season. She was in Batman, Bad Blood, like a little cameo type thing. And, it's just like in Batman animated series, I always liked it. She was a really good cop. POV was one of the best episodes for her because it was centered for her and stuff. And she's just this no nonsense, do the right thing type cop. Which I'm actually surprised she's not in the Batwoman show. Especially seeing how they dated in the comic books. I'm not really understanding why she hasn't been brought into the show yet. And then there's Nani from Insatiable. Now, Nani season, is that how you say her name? I'm not really sure. Anyway, season one, um, was she good representation in season one? Not really. She was like the stereotypical predatory Liz, like big time predator and stuff. But then I don't know if they gave her a relationship or not in the first season. But all in all, she was a pretty good friend. Then comes the second season when she had way better representation. And she started dating this one lady. However, things started getting rocky between her and that one lady. I forgot why. I tried to block that show out of my head because it was not a good show whatsoever. But I remember she dated this one lady and then they broke up. I forget why they broke up. I think the lady was lying to her because she was like, God, what was it? Was she an adult pretending to be a teenager? Who kind of like was doing like this, like she was like a news reporter type person or something. Or she was trying to find something out on the main character. And of course, Nani like really loves the main character and stuff. But I do remember when she did turn into like, accept who she was, turn into like a lesbian. She was like she's just this all around like sweetheart type person. And she even went as far as to like try to solve this one murder that led her to her best friend, who's the main star of the show. The show's weird. I do not recommend that show whatsoever. Um, it's not bad because of what people assumed about the show in the first season when they saw the trailer about the big people thing. It's not even really about that at all. It's just there's other stuff in there that makes this show crap. But she's actually one of the more likable characters in this show, if not the only one. I can't add the Bobs because the Bobs just suck. The one Bob is kind of nice and he will do for the one girl, but I mean, he cheated on his wife. But then she also kind of cheated back. So this show sucks, man. Now, another person that I just became aware of is Mateo from Superstore. I have just started watching this show, and I can't believe I went like living my life without watching this show. This show is hilarious. And Mateo, well, at first I didn't like him because he was like really rude and snarky in season one, and he did everything he could to like get over other people and kind of like sabotage them. But then by season two, he starts to become like a really nice and caring like person at times, especially when he gets with Jeff. And then, he has some of his best stuff with Cyan, which is kind of weird that they're going to put the two Asian people constantly together on the show. I wonder why that was a coincidence. And so, like, yeah, it's like, he's really nice to her. And he ends up becoming, like, more nicer to other people. He still has his snarky kind of ways and stuff. But he's more of a fleshed out character now. And especially with his whole immigration thing, and like you just really feel for the dude. Jeff, on the other hand, he started off really cool, and then he got like really like crappy at the end of season 3. I'm starting season 4 tomorrow, so I don't really know where that's gonna go. Tara from The Walking Dead, even though she was a very lame character, she was pretty good representation for the LGBT. She had 2 relationships. And first when she started off, she was kind of like this mean, snarky kind of person. And then she joined the governor's group, and then she later joined Rick's group. It's when she joins Rick's group, it's then when she has a really good relationship with this one character. And it's just like, she is a team player. Like, she cares about people. She wants to help people in this zombie-infected type world. But sadly, because her character is so lame, she got piped. Then there was Tara's girlfriend. I forget her name. I mentioned her before my other video. This woman was a trooper. She was kind of like this med student who didn't really know too much about medical stuff. And she had to become like the resident doctor. And she had to really use like her book smarts and get a book and figure out how to like stop this one dude from dying because he had infected skin. And she was just an all-around great character But sadly, they killed her off, which really pissed me off. I can't add Ruby from Ash vs. Evil Dead, only because she's a major villain who tried to end like all life on Earth and stuff like that. And she does have a redeeming arc in season 2 where she turns good, but she's just too evil and stuff. And plus that good version of her died by the evil version, so yeah. Aaron is a really cool dude on The Walking Dead. He's gay, but sometimes you'll forget that because they don't really show it. He had a lover, but his lover ended up dying. He doesn't even really appear on the show all that much, to tell you the truth, no more. And some of his storylines from Rick in the comic book were given to him, like the whole losing his arm type thing. But you know, he's a really good character. He's the one who brings the group to Alexandria, and he befriends them by giving them water and telling them, you know, look, I don't know y'all, but we have this community and we want to help people and all this other stuff. They was not trusting of him because of reasons, but then they later did. And he turned out to be like a great addition to the group, even though he's barely shown on the show. And then there's Jace, Joxer's identical brother from Xena. Now, he only appeared in one episode, the singing episode, and he's never comes out as saying he's gay, but judging by his like appearance and his behavior and like how he looks like Liberace and everything, there's a good assumption that he is. And unlike the rest of Joxer's family, there weren't, he decided to go into like singing and dancing, which really pissed the whole family off because they're a family of warriors and stuff and assassins. And so Jace is this extremely flamboyant, like dancer, singer who travels around the world with a group of like muscular men who barely wear like any clothes, and they just sing and they perform. And Joxer had a really hard time accepting him for who he is, and with the help of like Gabrielle and Xena, they helped him, and he realized, you know what I'm saying, like it's okay to be who you are and you shouldn't judge him, and that's his family and stuff like that. He had all these cool like singing dance numbers. And the thing is, I think he was pretty nice, though I think he judged Gabrielle, I think, for the way she dressed or something like that. I can't remember what. But he really didn't have that much character development. He was just like a cool character all around. Now, of course, I couldn't leave out Xena and Gabrielle from Xena Warrior Princess. Now, them two, because it was the 90s and set back in them olden days, it was kind of hard to tell like if they were really like bisexual or not, because we seen them with dudes and stuff, and they always kept talking about how much they love each other and how they can't go on living without the other person, and if you die I want to die type stuff. Like they really truly loved each other, so that grew up to be like a huge like lesbian fan base for the show. And so, you know, the producers and stuff, they played on that. And then in the final episode, they finally get the kiss, but not the way you think. It's only because Xena was like dead, I think, and she had to like do CPR on her or something like that. And so, but then, you know, there was other hints and nods to it that made you think that they were, because like that time Xena was dead in purgatory, Autolycus took over her body, and then Xena was talking to Gabrielle through like a kind of like dream state magical thingy. And then next thing you know, they start leaning into each other about the kiss. But then they don't actually kiss. It's Autolycus and Gabrielle kissing. And it was kind of like, hey, what's going on over here? You know? But you know, like both of them too, they were like warriors. They fought for the greater good. You know, Xena used to be evil back in the day, but then she learned to turn good. And you know, and Gabrielle was her sidekick. And it's just, those two are some of the best characters I've ever seen on TV. I wish I could add Shelby to this list from the Wilds, but I just can't because of what she did to her best friend. Because like I said in my videos in the past, Shelby is a closeted lesbian, and she's super religious. And when her dad found out, she berated her best friend so bad to the point where her best friend committed suicide. This haunted her for so long, to when she got on the island, she was still being a homophobic until this other character kind of like brought her around a little bit. I can kind of add Tony probably to the list, probably not. The only reason why I don't really want to add Tony to this list is because she's so angry, rude. Like the girl has problem, but she just destroys stuff. She had a really good relationship with this one girl in high school, but when she let her temper get the best of her and got in a fight with these guys, she ended up smacking her girlfriend by mistake. This caused her girlfriend to break up with her, and she put a giant boulder through her girlfriend's car windshield. But she does start a relationship with Shelby on the island, but it's kind of like, because the thing about Tony, she's out and proud and she don't care, whereas Shelby is like closeted. And basically she tells her, you make up your mind, at first, it's kind of like, cause I'm out, I'm proud, and I'm not gonna be with somebody who's not. But then she later decides to change her mind, cause they stuck on the island for so long. She's like, hey, whatever. If you wanna keep it hidden, I'll keep it hidden, like whatever. Shadowhunters was a really good series. Well, pretty good series. It wasn't like great. It needed more action. But they had 2 LGBT representation. First is Alex. He was probably like the best all around. He started off like he's a closeted gay dude, and he's struggling being who he is because he's in love with his best friend. His best friend is falling in love with a female character of the show. So this causes problems with Alex and that female character, but he starts to treat her kind of mean and nasty. When he does professes his love for his best friend, of course, he is rejected. He's having problems with his family, and his mom, I think, is trying to set him up on a marriage with a woman or something like that. So during the marriage, he still hasn't fully coming out, but a character by the name of Madness, who's a warlock, he is helping him to come out. And Madness bursts through like the wedding, crashes the wedding, and tells Alice, oh, I love you, this and that. They kiss. To everybody's shock and some dismay. Other than that, they go throughout the series fighting like the demons and stuff, and they're a really great couple. And really great characters. Like they have so much like character depth and development, and they actually do relationship type stuff, and you see all throughout the screen. Now, Mr. Negative Man in Doom Patrol, he got what is that term? I'm just gonna call it sexuality bent. Like they turned him gay in the show, and he has extremely good representation. For the most part, like he has good rep anyway, just because of his meta-human powers. Like him and the rest of the Doom Patrol are like outcasts. They're freaks, because of the way they look and their powers. But like they are slowly learning to overcome that and be more proud of themselves. For some reason, this show does not want to make them into superheroes. At first, they tried to in the first season, but then they just stopped and just had them going through the motions of regular life with superpowers and stuff. But yeah, it's just like this dude had like this, like he was married to a woman, but he was like secretly gay, and he fell madly in love with this one dude. And then it's just like he had that freak accident that messed his body up, and he was unable to be with the guy that he like fell in love with. And then what made things worse is that his son, from his marriage to the lady, he ended up betraying him as he got older, because he turned him into the military because of his powers and stuff. And it's just a sad, tragic loss that he can't be with the one he loves. It sucks he cheated on his wife, but it's good to see now he truly understands who and like what he is, and is willing to like embrace that, Next on my list are the 2 Batwomen from Batwoman. I'm trying to think. I don't really remember too much about the Kate Kane character. I kind of tried to like leave season 1 out of like my head. But from what I can remember, she was pretty good representation. She was out and about, proud, and and she didn't let nobody like stand in her way when it comes to that. Not even the military when they kicked her out. I know Batwoman, the character, and also the Secret Identity is supposed to be like a lesbian. They don't really focus too much on Batwoman, the Kate Kane Batwoman being like a lesbian. I know they did bring up one episode when somebody like blackmailed her and stuff, but other than that, they didn't really bring up too much about that. And also, you really don't see her date nobody on the show, really. I think you've seen her date like one person, and that person betrayed her. But I do remember Sophie. Sophie was really good to her back in the past, but Sophie was kind of having a hard time with it because of her mom. Speaking of which, Sophie. I spoke about her before. I think Sophie's a really good representation. Um, you actually be hard pressed to even know she's a lesbian because they don't really have her in no relationships now, especially since Kate did her weird vanishing thing because of Ruby Rose. And then I think she got engaged to a man, but then that ended for some reason. I forgot why. And he's never been brought up since. And she hasn't had a relationship since. But other than that, she's a really good cop with a good moral center. And now she's part of like Team Batwoman and stuff. She doesn't like corrupt cops, and even she will question her own boss, who she's worked with for a long time, when she feels he's going down like a dark path. And then there's the new Batwoman, Ryan Wilder. And once again, you'd be kind of hard pressed to even though she's in a relationship because they don't really show it. She had this toxic relationship with her ex, who's kind of like this criminal. And then they kind of rekindle a little bit, only for her to still be like bad. And then later leaving the city. Now she's kind of flirting with this new lady, this new character that only appeared like in one episode so far in the entire season, and there's only like one episode left of this entire season. But she was a person who got in trouble with the law, turned her life around. She feels that kind of like cops are always like looking down on her, putting her down because of who she is, because of her race and stuff. And she doesn't like cops. She thinks they're all crooked because of how, like, her living on the streets and always getting in trouble. But then when she finds the bat suit, something changes in her. She wants to turn her life around and be a better person. So she puts on the suit and she just starts kicking butt as Batwoman. And now she ended up being a way better Batwoman than Kate Kane ever was. And so I think that's pretty good representation. But I don't like how she's constantly talking about how like every cop is bad, or like how white people look down on her because she's black, and the CW only writes that because it's the CW. Other than dialogue like that, she's a pretty cool like character. Another thing I like about Sophie is that like one of the reasons why it was so hard for her to come out many years ago, and then why she got engaged to a guy, is because when she was in the military with Kate, she saw how like they treated people in the LGBT community. Not only that, but her mom is like homophobic and stuff, and so it was extremely hard for her to come out for her towards her mom. And so, people, they deal with that stuff every single day. It's like they want to be out. They want to be free. They want to be who they are, but they just can't, Some people can't because people judge people so, like, wrongly. Next is Sarah Lance from, well, pretty much the Arrowverse or Legends of Tomorrow. Now, Sarah is bisexual, even though she does favor women more than she favors guys. And she lets everybody know that in pretty much every episode. Or she keeps trying to get with a woman, and because she's super horny and stuff. The whole Maria Antoinette thing, that really bugged me because it's kind of like, dude, you screwed up the timeline just because you couldn't keep it in your pants and stuff. So, or a skirt, because they had to wear skirts back in those, or dresses back in those days. But she is a really cool character. She started off as just being like Oliver Queen's little concubine, and then she was presumed dead and found by the League of Assassins, where they trained her to be this fierce, ruthless, like assassin type person. But that just wasn't in her heart. He helped turn her around. She became a hero after that, the Black Canary. Then she died, came back to life, and then she became the White Canary. She started time traveling with the people from Legends, saving the timeline and help protecting the world, becoming a better hero, and then eventually becoming the leader of that ship, that spaceship, time ship that they drive around in and stuff. She looks out for her friends. She looks out for humanity. She cares about people. She's not too much of a stereotype or nothing like that, other than her just being she's not really the predatory Les type, but yeah, she does try to get with a lot of women that she sees that she likes. She's basically like a horny man and stuff. Then there's Alex from Supergirl. Now, I stopped watching at the end of the second season, but before that time, Alex had already came out in the second season. Or maybe it wasn't the first, it was the second. And Alex has always been Kara's adoptive like sister, and she was like really supportive of Kara and everything. She's strong, she's courageous, she's not afraid to get her hands dirty, she's not afraid to like get into the fight, and she'll do anything she can to like save her own city, if not the world or the universe or the multiverse. Alice was a really great addition to the show. A lot of fans assumed she would be like the Lex Luthor of the show because her name was Alex Lex, you know what I'm saying? That's when people speculated in the first season. But sadly, she didn't become that. I kind of wish she almost did and then had like a redeeming arc. But for the most part, she was always just this headstrong, courageous person from start to finish. Even when she like, had her low time, she was able to pick herself back up. Willow and Tara from Buffy. Those two were really good characters, especially Willow, mainly Willow. Tara, Tara was like the shy, awkward person of the group. I wish she had more scenes and I wish she lasted longer on the show and didn't die. But for the most part, she was this extremely sweetheart, loving, caring person who never really wanted to see the bad in people and only saw the good. Sadly, because she was like mostly just a recurring character, she like didn't have that much character development of any kind. So she just remained her shy, awkward self. But she had this really cool like story arc with her family where she thought she was like this demon and had to do like all this like bad stuff, but then it turned out, oh, she's not a demon. And I think her family like lied to her or something like that. I can't really remember. She was added to the main cast, I think, the second to last season. But then, like I said before, they killed her, and that's when Willow turned into dark. Speaking of Willow, Willow was really cool. She was the super, super, super dorky, nerdy friend of Buffy. In the first two seasons, she's mainly just doing like the computer hacker type stuff to help Buffy try to help save like the city and the world. She was this like extremely shy person and she had like no self-confidence during those times. But by the time she got into college, around time like the fourth season, she became like, more confident in herself. And that helped when she became a witch towards the end, I believe, of the second season and then all throughout the third season. But she wasn't really all that good at that time because she was just starting out. She got a whole lot better when she met Tara, and that's when she started her relationship with Tara. Now, Willow, unlike Tara, is bisexual. I don't care what nobody says, she is. She was too horny for men in the first three seasons. She was all in love with Xander, and then she fell in love with Oz and stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, so during her time with when she became like bi and everything, she started like becoming less shy. She had way more confidence. Her powers increased, but like I said, sadly, when Tara died, she turned to evil. Thankfully, with the help of her friends, she was able to recover, even doing her magic addition that she had, and then she was able to save the entire world at the end of the last season, along with Buffy and everybody else. The Runaways had really great diversity. Nico, who is my favorite character of this show, and I have her Funko Pop. She was a very headstrong, very well-written character. She was headstrong, she was powerful, she was fierce, she didn't take no crap from nobody, and she was in an lgbt relationship. Well, she's supposed to be in a bisexual one, but instead they just made into a lesbian one for the show. But they still had like nods to her bisexuality when it came to Alex in the comic books. By having like her, like after all the stuff that happened between them two, she's still like, they had their problems, but she still cared about him in that flash forward episode. And and would do anything like to save his life. She was a true leader of like the group. Even though she wasn't the official one, she was kind of like co. But Nico was awesome, man. She took on her parents when they were like brainwashed with her little, I think, staff of one. She killed Jonah with the staff just for him to like transfer his consciousness into something else. But it's like, yeah, man, like you don't mess with this girl. And then when she went all witch mode, She made a group of cops that went to go try to kill the runaways. She made them all disappear and nobody knew where they went. She thought she killed them, but she didn't. She sent them to some kind of like alternate like reality type thing where they were like all like nutty and stuff. Like she is not somebody to piss off. Catalina was an extremely good representation of LGBT also on the Runaways. Her story is a little bit more complicated. See, she looks human, but in fact, she's actually an alien, and I believe also a princess. In her alien form, well, she's pretty much the pride representation. She's like sparkly, and she's kind of like a rainbowish kind of color, like a purplish kind of pink. So they really, really went LGBT in the comic books for her character that had to be portrayed for the show. Anyways, just like with all the other characters, she's portrayed by her parents. Turns out her father's this evil alien dude who wants to take over the earth by having his people be implanted inside the bodies of like these like humans. So for her, not only does she have to come to grips with her actually being a lesbian because she's been bearding guys for like her entire life into her teen years, but she has to go up against her family. And you know, that's really difficult because she wants to know who she is. She has no idea she's an alien. She has no idea her dad was this evil and stuff. So she has to do like a lot of like mental like, you know, challenges in this series. She starts a relationship with Nico, which she steals from Alice, but Alice wasn't, but Alice and Nico really wasn't a thing like they were in the comic books because Nico got pissed at Alex. So anyway, they start a relationship, and then they have like a rocky patch here and there, especially when her family comes into play, and also when this other alien person comes in and tries to steal Catalina from Nico. I don't think those two end up together in the flash forward future thing. But yeah, other than that, she's a really cool character. There's Bess from Nancy Drew, which everybody knows Bess was one of my favorite characters in season 1. Not so much in season 2 because what they wrote for her was dumb. But I always loved Bess. Bess, when she first came in, she was kind of a little bit like rude a little bit, but then she turned nice. She was this like former criminal, kind of like homeless person who lived in her van, but then she had like these rich relatives, and you know, so then she started bonding with them. But it's like, you know, once she started working with the Drew crew and everything, she really started to become like a nicer person. She helped solve like mysteries and crimes, whether it was ghost related or like real life murder type stuff. She was never really like the stereotype. She was just an all around like sweet, kind hearted character who fell in love with this one person named Lizbeth, and those two was just like so like cute together. They was natural. They really bonded with one another. Nothing was forced upon either character, story wise or anything like that. But then sadly, at the end of season 1, she got cursed, and in season 2, because she thought she was going to die from the curse, she decided to break things off with Lizbeth. And after that, Lizbeth was never seen from again. But it's like, for some reason, I don't know why they didn't put those two back together, but instead they had her fall in love with a dead ghost. And the dead ghost is inside one of her best friend's body. And her best friend is dating her other best friend. And yeah, it just got weird in season 2 because the writers are idiots now. And then like the one character whose host body she's in, she's all like just kiss her and everything. And it's like, okay, one, you're in a relationship. 2, you're kissing one of your best friends, and your best friend's dating your other best friend. So that's kind of screwed up. But that's why I don't like season 2. Season 1, Bess was just awesome. And then one sad, tragic thing that happened in season 2 also was when her rich family shunned her because her ex, who's like also a criminal, he set her up to like piss off her family by stealing the jewels and stuff. And yeah, now they don't want nothing to do with her, so she's upset about that. However, one problem I have with that is that they don't really focus too much on that. It was just like a one and done episode. Clark was really awesome representation all around on the show. She was a great leader, even though she messed up a couple of times. But the one thing is, she's for her people, and she will defend her people no matter who she has to kill. She will kill left and right to protect her people. And she's bisexual on the show. You know, you kind of forget that because you think she's a lesbian because they mostly pair her up with women and not really with men that much. But when she is in a relationship, she gives it her all. She's not a stereotype in any kind of way. She's just a really great character. Even though in the 100 books, I think she's straight because she's with Bellamy, but those two never get together on the show. But yeah, like all in all, she's really good characterization. Her girlfriend Lexa, not really. Lexa keeps portraying her too much, and Sky people. But then of course Lexa ends up dying, and it pissed fans off because they're like, hey, why you keep killing all the LGBT people off in TV shows? So yeah. Now Theo, or Susie slash Theo from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I've mentioned that character before in my last video, but I'll briefly just mention it now. I think that character has pretty good representation. Susie started off as a girl, but she always felt more like she was a guy. So she would dress more like in guy clothes, and she wanted to play in guy sports. She hated dresses, stuff like that. And she joined the football team where she was harassed constantly by the other football members to the point where they would literally beat the snot out of her, having like a black eye and a bloody nose and stuff like that. But she always wanted to be like a dude, 'cause that's how she always felt she was. But she, you know, her father could not afford the surgery. In the next season, well, she tells him all this stuff, and he's kind of not okay with it, but he decides just to like be okay with it. So by the next season, she shaves her head and she starts calling herself Theo and starts going by him. And so now Theo is, you know, he's still doing like the sports and stuff like that, but he can't afford the surgery. One of the most, I think, emotional things I ever saw like the character go through was like when Madam Satan had everybody on this like dream spell of nightmares. We got to see Theo as Dream Sabrina and the Spellmans, you know, for a spell to turn him into like a real like boy and stuff, you know. And they said, oh, you know, we probably shouldn't do this because it's magic, but hey, we're gonna do it anyway. So anyway, they do it, and he's like a real boy, the voice, everything. Then because it's a nightmare, he starts to notice that he's turning into a tree. And so like he's freaking out. He tells them, can you reverse the spell? And then they're all like, there's no way to reverse it. Oh wait, if we do reverse it, then you'll turn back into a girl. So what do you want to do? And then he's all like, you know, I'd rather like be a tree than to go back to being a girl. And I just thought that was like so interesting. Like he'd rather live his life as like a tree person than go back to being like female and stuff. That really showed just how much he really wanted to be like a dude. But then, because it's a nightmare, he really started to sprout some like some like tree bark type stuff, and it's spreading to the point where they're like, okay, we're just gonna have to cut it off. And so he starts freaking out and screaming, and he wakes up. And then I think, what was it, probably third season, he starts to date like a dude. And then when Theo finally tells like Puck, you know, that hey, you know, I was born female and I consider myself a dude and this and this and that, you know, Puck is all like, you know, I don't care. And he just starts like dating him anyway. Because, you know, he's going to show Theo that, you know, doesn't matter like what you was born as or what you want to be. I just like you. And that's like really sweet, you know. And then there's Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus from Sailor Moon, the two out of Century who never knew each other because they lived on their distant planet, like guarding the outer solar system. Then when they got reincarnated and brought to Earth, Neptune, she was awakened earlier before Uranus was. And then when they found each other, there was just this overwhelming like bond those two shared. And it's just like they could feel like this really strong passion between one another. And Neptune tells her, you know, like, if you touch that rod and you turn into like a Sailor Guardian, then your life that you know right here and now will never be the same. And, you know, you will be forced to like protect like the universe and all this other stuff. But Uranus, she just felt this yearning to like touch the rod and be more than who she was, even though she knew she had to give up her life. Because every time she just kept looking at like Neptune, she just kept feeling this like really strong like sensation towards her. And so the show treats their relationship pretty nice, but it's a little ambiguous because you know it was like the 90s, so you really didn't know if they were like together, but they were. And it's just like every scene they're like in together, it's just like so beautifully like wrote with the music and like the animation. And it's just you really feel their bond. Every time they just like stand near each other. Don't even have to like do anything. They just have to like stand near each other and you feel that like through the screen. And then of course once the VizDub came and everything, and you know, in the new like Crystal series, you see they really are in a relationship, and and then in the internal movie they have like promise rings and stuff, but they have a promise ring with Pluto too, which makes no sense. Next on the list is Emily from Pretty Little Liars. Now, I originally loved Pretty Little Liars when it first came out until it went kind of crazy. But Emily was my very first favorite person on that show. She's sweet, she's kind, she's caring. She doesn't really judge nobody unless you give her like an extremely good reason to judge. She's just an all around good character. It's just sad that she can't have like any good like relationships on the show because, well, pretty much everybody tries to kill her. Maya was the only really good relationship she had, and Maya is the one who fully caused her to come out the closet. See, growing up, she only really had a crush on her friend Allison, but Allison played and manipulated her. So nothing really became of that. So then she started dating boys. Now, some people might debate this. Some people say that Emily's a lesbian. I say she's bisexual because there are two guys in the show that she liked, and even after she came out, she still tried to get with this one dude before he tried to kill her. And so it's like Maya was really like the first one who really truly made her come out and made her comfortable in her own skin, and they was like the cutest little couple. Sadly, though, her mom did not share those same sentiments. Her mom was very homophobic and did not like the idea of her daughter being with another girl. So that caused a huge rift between like her and her mom. And it was to the point where her mom found out that Maya caused Emily to smoke weed. So Emily's mom told Maya's parents, and then she had to go away to camp, and then she left the show after that. It caused Emily to go to like this huge depression of like drinking and just being angry and stuff like that. Now, what turned Emily's mom around was when there was this girl named Paige, and Paige is a closeted lesbian, and she tried to kill Emily because everybody for some reason tries to kill Emily. And so after she did that, then she later realized that she is a lesbian, but she was not ready to come out to the whole world, and Emily tried to get her to do that, but she wasn't ready. Well, her dad got upset and started making fun of Emily and started threatening Emily, and that's what caused Emily's mom to turn around. She realized that, you know what, ain't nobody gonna harm or hurt her daughter no matter what, and she loves her daughter, and that became her to like come around and accept Emily for who she is. It happened a little too quickly in my opinion, but you know, at least it did happen. After that, she went on to have many relationships with women who all screwed her over or tried to kill her. And then she tried to date that one, well, she tried to kiss that one guy, and then yeah, he tried to kill her too. Yeah. And then there's the gay couple from Modern Family. They were pretty good representation, I think. You had Mitchell, who was more like the straight laced type guy who wasn't like over the top, wasn't super flamboyant. He was like a sharp tongue, straight shooter type person who just like he's really nice, but he's rude and snarky at times. But like he's just this really caring type person. Then there's Cam, who was played by a straight man. He was hilarious on the show. However, he was a huge stereotype on the show. He was like the super flamboyant, like gay man who throws his hands up in the air, like he doesn't care and stuff. But when it comes to stereotypes, as bad as they are, stereotypes are based on actual fact, and people do actually act that way, a large amount of them. So that's where stereotypes come from. But it's kind of weird that they would have him go so overboard with it. But other than that, he was just this really sweet, kind, gentle soul and stuff who rarely got mad at people. The character of Eric from Sex Education is like a great character on that show, and in fact, he's like the show stealer of the show. Many viewers actually like him a whole lot more than they do other characters on the show. He isn't closeted whatsoever. He's very open and out, and his daddy has a problem with that because his dad fears that he will be mistreated and beat on, which actually does happen in one episode. His dad fears did come true when he was out and about dressed in drag, and this dude thought he was an actual woman and found out he wasn't, and then just beat the crap out of him. But like, he's good representation in terms of like, he's a very positive character. He doesn't shy away from who he is. He's very proud of who he is, and he's not gonna let nobody stop him from being that. And he is actually given relationships in the show, and he's actually friends with the main character. But it's like he has his own separate like storylines that makes him his own unique character and not just like a sidekick. Call the Midwife has some of the great like representation of strong women. It's a show set in the 1950s to the 70s of like these like nurses, midwives, and nuns. They also had a really great LGBT character in the form of Pasty Mount. Yeah, it's a kind of unusual name, but the actress who plays her has a pretty unusual name too. So she's the only lesbian of the show, or was. I think she wanted to leave the show, so they had to write it out. But when they had her on the show, they had her for a couple of seasons, and each episode is about like 6 to 8 episodes. And so, because it's a British show, and so, but they made as much of that, 8 to 6 episode, and they gave her a lot of good amount to do. Turns out, she has to hide who she is, her along with her girlfriend. It was one of the most touching, beautiful relationships you'll ever see. They have to literally hide who they are, and because Pasty, they can't find out who they were back then. Cause they did this one gay episode in season 1 or 2, and if you saw the way they treat them and the hormone pills they give them when they find out they're that way, it is brutal. So they have to hide who they are. They have to go to like clubs where more people are like them, so they can just be who they want to be. Now, like I said before, the nuns, I don't think they ever found out how she is. I think one of the nurses did, but they were totally cool with it. And so these two just had like a really great relationship. You could feel the relationship. You could feel the storylines. It was very well written. It wasn't stereotypical in any kind of way. But then sadly, when the actress wanted to leave the show, they had to like, end that. And they ended it in a very sad kind of way. So they were going to live together. Pasty was going to move out of monastery type place, Nanada's house, whatever they call it, and so they were gonna get like a place of their own, so they can just be who they wanted to be inside their own home without having to hide anything. And then Pasty's girlfriend was gonna work at the nun place and help deliver like babies and stuff, because she was a nurse as well. But then the saddest thing happened. Pasty's girlfriend got hit by a car. She did not die. She's alive. But she lost her memories. All of it. She doesn't even remember who Pasty is. She doesn't even remember being a lesbian. And so Pasty is heartbroken because her mom is going to take her away so she can better take care of her. And they're going to move like in another like town or something like that. Pasty is just like heartbroken by this. The audience is heartbroken by this. She finally gets to be happy just to have it taken away. And then of course, the character got written out the show and this and that. I decided to end this list with somebody who's probably not part of the LGBT community, but I assume he is. This is going to be the strangest entry of them all. It's the goblin looking dude from Goosebumps. I forgot the title of the book and the episode, something Horrorland. And so it's like, okay, now this is the 90s. And it's a Fox kid, so you ain't gonna see no LGBT people. However, there was this one goblin who was a man and he dressed in pink and he was kind of like the makeup artist type person. He was super flamboyant. And it's like, and of course, this was a time when, like, you know, gay folks were like hate on and stuff. But I'm pretty sure he was like a gay dude or a gay like goblin dude and stuff because of the way he acted in that pink shirt. Because that was around the time when guys stopped wearing pink in the 90s and stuff. And so it's just kind of like he was like the first, like, I'm assuming gay person I've ever seen like on TV. And he was just like hilarious and stuff. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.